Hi again, welcome to another episode of What's Next in the Dune Insights podcast, where we speak to early stage tech founders, innovators, and others in the tech ecosystem. My name is Nick Schrammick, and I'm here with my business partner, Howard Chao. And today we're speaking to the company Goggo Network, which is an auto tech company. Howard, what do you think about Goggo Network?
So I think it's a fairly unique situation because they're a well-established fleet operations solution platform for last mile delivery. And last mile delivery, as we all know, is one of the key parts of the greater ecosystem for autonomy. But it's a very complicated problem to solve. And a lot of it has to do with software and management of the fleets. So and they have a fairly flexible platform which allows them to manage different pieces of the puzzle, not just one type of vehicle. So I thought it was a very interesting presentation and a very interesting company to understand.
All right. Well, here's the interview with Howard and the founder of Goggo Network, Yasmine Fage, along with an investor friend of ours, Will Foss.
I'm here today with Yasmine Fage of Goggo Network and Will Foss of Softbank Group International. And they will be helping me to understand Yasmine's company. Before we jump into this, let me ask Will to give a quick self-introduction about who he is and what he does. He's going to be my co-interviewer today.
Thank you, Howard, and very nice to get a chance to speak today. My name is Will Foss. I'm a director at Softbank Group International on our investment team. Prior to Softbank, I'd spent my time both as an advisor in the mobility industry and then as an operator in the mobility industry, working with growth stage tech companies. Came to Softbank in 2019, where I worked with some of our mobility companies and had the pleasure of meeting Yasmine as I led the investment into her company.
Terrific. Okay, so we're going to turn spotlight to you, Yasmine. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and the origin story of your company, and then we'll get into your technology.
Sure. So as you said my name correctly, I'm very impressed. Hi, I'm Yasmine Fage. I'm French. As I created Goggo Network 4 years ago, and I will tell a bit more about the company after, but basically we're focusing on autonomous driving solution for last mile logistics with a focus on Europe. Before that, I was working also in an innovation and technology space at McKinsey and before in investment banking. And just a funny anecdote on the company. So why autonomous driving? Personally, I always hated driving and I was a very city center and always didn't understand why we had to live with so many cars, non-electric, and also seeing like delivery trucks parked. I thought there must be a better way. So that's a bit a personal distaste for how currently mobility is organized today.
Great. Okay, so Yasmine, you are a co-founder, and you obviously know the history. Can you tell us what is the essence of what your company does? What's your technology and what do you do?
Yeah, so, and also just to give the big picture, like I think mobility is the nerve of any social system or any cities. And so what we have decided to build is, in a sense, a company platform that is able to integrate different type of autonomous mobility solutions, from the sidewalk to larger delivery vans, all autonomous, with customers that are like large retailers or food partners that are looking for a partner that would help them transition their fleet toward like electric and autonomous solutions, and without having them to solve the game and problem of understanding, AV, different type of AV solutions, how to operate the fleet, how to handle the platform, and how to do all these partnerships. So basically we are like vehicle agnostic, but focusing on being able to deliver these solutions to our clients in last mile delivery to mid mile in larger city in Europe.
Okay, and so you're a software only platform, I take it.
And because today, at the end of the day, we are building a new category. You need to get special permits to operate those technology. So we have a team that is also very focused on regulation, working with cities to be able to get licenses to operate those vehicles. And of course, because today there's no one company that is operating a different type of AV vehicle at scale understanding, we need to be the operators to actually collect the data and build our platform. Will it be the case 5 years from now? Probably not everywhere for sure, but right now we're also taking care of the operations and the regulation permits.
Yeah, if I can jump in, Howard, I think one of the things that I noticed as an advisor and an operator, and when we were looking at Goggo for a possible investment, there's the autonomy question is a really, really hard problem to solve. There's a hardware problem, there's a software problem, there's an integration problem, there's a cybersecurity problem. There's all of these challenges that need to be solved. And there's a lot of companies and a lot of dollars going to all of those challenges. But when you think about the operations layer of an autonomous mobility network, it really felt to me like there was a big gap there in terms of how they were solving that. And so Goggo, I think, was founded really to plug that gap and say, whether you're an autonomous delivery drone for the sidewalk, or an autonomous delivery robot for the bicycle lane, or you're an autonomous van, you still need to have a permit to operate. You still need to have integration of all the proper technologies. You need a booking mechanism. You need a ticketing system. You need all of these integration layers. And you also need an operations layer. You need maintenance. You need all these other aspects of operating a delivery robot. Goggo really filled that gap, and doing it in a vehicle agnostic way was something that was particularly interesting for us. And I think it also resonated with customers and regulators. And if I can, Howard, I'd love for Yasmine to share a little bit about their current customers and target market.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. So I'm happy to share some. So Will, you're saying like sharing some names to get them a bit more color on like the type of clients that we have.
Well, like for example, you're working it. You've got a couple of live deployments, and you've announced sort of some of the partnerships that you have.
Yes. No. So we've announced partnership. I mean, for US players, but for US. Citizen to know them, but I think Carrefour is one of the largest retailer in France. Dia is one of the largest retailer also in Europe. We have announced also, and we're going to announce very soon, a partnership with also really like large leading AV providers such as Mobileye. So I would say we are lucky to have on both ends of the spectrum, top billion clients that are looking forward to have a service one-stop solution, and then the best mobility solution, because at the end for them we are also ensuring that the technology is getting deployed and not just staying in pilot or in like development stage.
So Yasmine, can you go a layer deeper and describe what are the key functionalities that you offer with your platform, and what do you not provide?
So no, it's a very good question. So basically, we don't provide anything related to the pure AV stack of like the brain. So we work more on everything related to like mission management, fleet dispatchment, fleet orders to control like battery charging and so on, and then delivery done. We also have a teleoperation supervision layer for incidents. And then so we integrate the different API of the AV tech. We put a supervision layer on top, and we do all the dispatching and handling. And it seems that, obvious, but like basically when you dispatch a mobility autonomous fleet, it has nothing but like little to do that when you dispatch a fleet of drivers, because actually humans do a ton of tasks that you wouldn't imagine that you don't program for, but you need the vehicle to do when they're on their own. So that's in a nutshell what we do, and then we integrate and we group the orders from the different clients that we have.
Okay. And so, what is your revenue model? How do you charge for your services, or is it different depending on the kind of customer?
Yes, we have two pricing model. One is a pure fee per delivery, and the other is more of a fee for the vehicle per month. If you are like one dedicated fleet for your vehicle, imagine Carrefour said, I want to have my dedicated vans, and for these routes and these routes, then it's a monthly fee. And if it's more like, let's say, a restaurant that instead of using a rider wants to use like a mix of our like different sidewalk and other robots, we have a fee per delivery model.
Okay. And so apart, you described with some of your customers already, they all sounded like large retailers. Are there other categories that you're targeting besides large retailers, for example, trucking companies or other types of?
We are focusing, let's say, more on like anything that is more in the last mile delivery. So it can be food, it can be parcels. I don't want to say more names, but you can imagine, like, I can say more names like Inditex, like big, like, you know, retailers that are more also in the clothing space. And then like more like a restaurant that would use normally like a delivery app that could go on our platform. And we also integrate with delivery app because at the end we're B2B. So if a company like Globo or Flip Dish that are like, you know, integrator of like a delivery partner with us, we are just one more way of delivering food to clients. So it's a B2B2C model.
Mm-hmm. You're a little bit later stage than many of the startups that are coming to our event. You've already raised, I believe, your Series A, and you're well developed and relatively mature compared to some of the other companies. Can you describe a little bit what your roadmap going forward will be? You've already reached a certain amount of momentum, it looks like.
Yeah, but as Will has said, I think the problem of autonomous driving is a hard one to crack, and because you're creating an industry and a category, there is not like a formula to scale in all cities and all geography. And so you really need to understand, I mean, for any mobility, what is like the city landscape look like? What are the partners that would be the best so we need, if we, so far, so just for everybody, for our context, we've raised 24 million from Softbank and Axel Springer, so that's our main investors. But right now we will soon launch another race to be able to consolidate, let's say, our tech platform and continue to be able to scale our effort in different cities and sites in Europe and the Middle East.
I think one thing that jumps out at me about Goggo is, you know, why Europe, right? We hear about all this investment in technology in China and in the United States and focusing on those markets. You don't often hear about new mobility companies being invested in Europe. And so why was SoftBank interested in Europe? And I think some of what spoke to us about the Goggo team and our conversations with Yasmine and Martin were one, the team and their experience, two, their understanding and knowledge of the regulatory landscape, and three, sort of the EMEA focus being a lack of focus for a lot of the other companies out there. I think when you think about, and Yasmine, feel free to add anything to this, but you think about the European market, it's, you know, 450 million consumers just inside of Europe. You think about Europe, UK, and Middle East, you've got a mix of friendly regulator environments that are focused on driving down traffic and congestion in their cities with an ability and willingness to regulate. You've got assets related to autonomy. Some of the largest tier ones and automotive players in the entire world are the dominant employers in some of these markets. And from a Middle East perspective as well, you've got a large automotive world, you've got a large logistics world, you've got a large commerce world. And so I think that focus on, I'll call it under-focused, under-invested areas was something that was interesting to us. And then from a knowledge and experience perspective, Yasmine's co-founder, Martin, has built a very successful career of building industries and companies in regulated landscapes inside of Europe. He's done it in telecom, he's done it in fertility, he's done it in a bunch of industries. And mobility, I think, is a natural extension.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, totally will. And I think most people would be surprised, but there are actually more cars in Europe than in the US. They're actually the leading still, I think today, maybe Tesla will change that soon, but like in terms of like leading mobility company, like Europe is still as the largest players in terms of OEM and also in terms of public transit operators like Keolis, Transdev. So a lot of mobility leadership has been, I think, historical. And the question is, how do you continue to, you know, build strong players in Europe that can scale in Europe and then eventually in the rest of the world?
So Yasmine, speaking of the competitive landscape, did you want to share with us a slide? I think you mentioned that you, or describe, if you like, the what do you consider to be the competitive landscape? Because it doesn't sound like too many competitors that are squarely doing what you're doing, but how do you think about it?
Sure. Actually, I think, yeah, we have a couple of slides. I'm going to share a matrix. I don't know if you see my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
Do
see
you
it.
want to go to presentation mode, maybe?
Yeah, I think this is straight into understand, okay, on the one axis, of course, non-AV and AV players, and then, kind of like manufacturer vehicle versus operator of networks. And so what you see on the bottom right, I think is right now a lot of companies that are investing, in one type of vehicle, one clear use case, and are trying to, scale this from both manufacturing to operating, and at the same time offering just one solution to, like, when you talk to, again, to a big retailer, it's like, great, I can use a Neuro or Starship for this, but like, I don't want to have like 70 partnership with 70 operators that will operate my logistics chain. And so I think on top of the fact that I think it's a very narrow or specific value proposition, I think it's likely to become, and again, like, I can be wrong, a commodity, and we're starting to see that with the sidewalks, with Starship having a hedge 5 years ago, and now we have over 15 sidewalk robot company that are building, manufacturing, and then operating. I think the larger the vehicle, the more money you need to be able to scale. But like, I believe that in a world of the technology at scale, you get a lot of vehicle as a commodity, and we're already starting to see that as partnership. So I think they will have a real question in the long term of survival. I think on the top left, you see the incumbent in terms of operating, like the FedEx, UPS. I mean, Amazon is also there. It's a bit of a double-edged animal because they are both like incumbents in terms of size, but also innovator. But I would say if we just take a FedEx, of course, right now they have like a lot of like vehicle on the road. The question is like, what will happen to them if they don't transition to AV soon enough? So I think inevitably they will have to do that. But I think we have a first mover advantage by focusing and getting the clients on board with us right now, because I mean, FedEx is used to manage people, right? Drivers. And then on the bottom left, you have the existing manufacturers, which of course, I think are transitioning to build AV vehicle, but I don't think have a vocation to become operators and manage fleets of vehicles. And we've seen that when they have started to start to do that, even in the non-AV space, they have like scaled down expectation and ambition and focus on making cars or making vehicles, which what they are good to do at scale. So again, I think as Will was explaining earlier, I think there's really like kind of a gap of what you see on the top right and where we are, that would, offer this integrated solution with a focus on AV already right now.
So we're running a little bit short on time, and we need to save a little of your dry powder for Bonnie Doon. But
Sure.
a couple last questions. So when will you roll out in the US? And maybe you can talk a little bit about the difference between the US markets and what you've experienced in Europe.
That's a good question, and I get this question a lot. I think Europe is clearly harder in terms of regulation, but I think at the same time, as we'll explain, it's a bit of a more captive market where we have more of an edge in terms of regulatory knowledge, understanding. And UK and Middle East are still already huge market to tap in, where regulation in UK is actually quite open and Middle East too on top. So, I mean, the US for me is a market that is slightly more mature in terms of ability to scale and regulation. Though I think it's much more crowded in terms of like companies that are trying to get licenses, to get permits, and to scale their operation. They have invested billions, so you're really going to market kind of facing giants. So I think it's not something that like we won't do ever, but I think it's could be smarter to consolidate a little bit our position in Europe before going there.
Terrific. Will, what am I missing? Do you want to ask any last questions?
No, I think those are the big questions for me. And Yasmine, as always, it's a pleasure to get a chance to talk with you and to get excited all over again about the Goggo vision.
Thanks, Will. Pleasure for me too.